Start with a press conference. First, we will listen to the ministers, then your questions. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to thank the French Minister Stéphane Séjourné for this initiative to gather as a matter of urgency. I also thank my colleagues from Estonia, Latvia and Ukraine who adjusted their agendas and found time to come here today. Against Ukraine without stopping, and to conquer Ukraine, it's mobilizing more and more troops and military equipment, and other countries belonging to the axis of evil assist Russia. Ukrainians are fighting hard, but the current Western military support is clearly insufficient and unduly delayed. We need to help Ukraine much more and much quicker. That is the purpose of our meeting today. And we welcome the French leadership and are determined to contribute. Transatlantic military support for Ukraine should not only reach its former level that was there a year ago, but should also be significantly strengthened. And if we support Ukraine, it is not enough to do it in words. It must be reflected in our deeds. If we give Ukraine armaments, we must give what is needed for victory. If we agree that Russia's actions are destroying the foundations of international law, we must take steps to protect them. I hope that the Czech Republic's initiative in purchasing ammunition in third countries will bring results soon. Every day is extremely precious on the front line today. Lithuania is also contributing to this initiative. However, this cannot be a one-off effort. Our support must be sustainable. And we welcome the European defense industry strategy presented by the European Commission on Tuesday, and the emphasis on the member states that face the greatest military threat. However, at this moment, the European industry is unable to produce as much as it is necessary to achieve Ukraine's victory, and we must find solutions as soon as possible, including those on the European level, on how to finance the procurement of the needed armaments from other countries and urgently transporting it to the front line. Continue to repeat that the world will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes is no longer enough. In Vilnius today, we made it clear that we would make every effort to ensure that Ukraine wins this war, defending not only its territory, but also the rules-based world order. And it's an existential issue, not only for Ukraine, but also for all of us. And there cannot be any buts. We must draw red lines for Russia, not for ourselves, in order to prevent Russia from winning. And finally, to open the way for Ukraine's victory, we cannot rule out any forms of support for Ukraine. We need to continue supporting Ukraine wherever it is most needed. Today, we also need to discuss the initiatives to strengthen NATO defense and the deterrence and ensuring air defense in our region. France is a nuclear ally in the nuclear alliance. I'm grateful for the clear public message from France and NATO.
Thank you, Gabriel, to host us here. It's really something new, but we need different approaches. We need different initiatives to move forward. And we have been supporting Ukraine a lot, and I'm very happy that the Prime Minister of France is here in Lithuania, and also, Dmitry, I'm really, really happy to welcome you here and see you again, because every time we meet, then we as well emotionally and practically understand the situation what is Ukraine in. And Ukraine is fighting for not only for their own freedom, but for us all. And as a bordering countries, we know very well that Russia is a threat, Russia will remain a threat. So we must get rid of Russian aggression and push Russia back. The problem is that we have been supporting Ukraine a lot, but actually it's not good enough for today. And we know the situation in Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting heavily and doing a great job, but from our side it's not good enough. What we have done, we must do more, we must scale up, we must speed up, and we must deliver our decisions what has been made already. So, what I really do hope that we find out-of-box solutions. We find the ways that we can give rapidly ammunition and military support to Ukraine, because this is the most cheapest and most efficient way to support Ukraine and also to protect us. And we must deliver what we have promised already. I'm very straightforward saying that in Europe we have promised 500 million euros military support using European peace facility, but it's stuck. We have promised as well 1 million round of ammunition for this March. We have done half of it. And we have promised other things. So now it's time, actually, to deliver all these promises. And I'm very happy that President Macron had this initiative. And also, it is a bit like a wake-up call that we can talk, but we must deliver. And also, I'm welcoming the Czech Republic initiative about sending and buying ammunition. But I can say as well that Estonia has these capabilities, but we are lacking of funds. The most important thing is that to put funds in to buy ammunition and send to Ukraine. And I think that within these kind of discussions and meetings, we can move forward. From an Estonian point of view, we have offered as well, and we are going to sign a bilateral agreement between Estonia and Ukraine for a long-term commitment as well. Estonia has put 1.4% of GDP into Ukraine to support militarily, and we will continue. Next week, our government will adopt the next package of military support to Ukraine, and when we are signing the bilateral agreement between Estonia and Ukraine, we are promising and taking commitment about 0.25% of GDP military support per year. And if everybody is doing like this, and I think that this is doable for everybody, it means 120 billion euros per year military support, and it is enough for Ukraine to push back Russia. So as a bordering countries, we understand that Ukraine is fighting for us, but also instead of us. So it is important that we understand that and we'll act rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Now the Minister of France, Stéphane Séjourné.
Thank you very much, Ministers. Thank you, Gabrielis. Thank you, Christianis. Thank you, Marcus and Dmitry. It was very important to me. And like I just said, very important to me to come to Vilnius today at a very decisive time for the European continent. So thank you, dear Gabrielis, for hosting us. I would say we are meeting in a unique format. You three, the three Baltic countries, together with a country that is a friend, Ukraine, a country we've been supporting for 2 years now. We're discussing with our Baltic friends, and these are very useful discussions. They are extremely important for this European surge that we've been talking about for a few weeks now, and very important for the European unity as well. As a matter of fact, your peoples know better than any others what is at stake today. Our unity must be equal to the past sacrifices of your peoples and equal to the current sacrifice made by the Ukrainian people. We talked about it, and we are well aware of the dire consequences of that type of conflicts. Sacrifices for our freedom, our common values, for our democracies. So it's only natural for us to have together with us our Ukrainian colleague. We all understand that every hour is of the essence to strengthen our coordination, our European coordination. Like I said, this is a serious time, and this is a decisive time for us to prolong and strengthen our support to Ukraine. President Macron took the initiative of hosting a summit in Paris on the 26th of February. This conference was attended by some 27 heads of state of government or their direct representatives. The purpose was clear, demonstrating that we stand united to support Ukraine and that our determination remains intact to make sure that the imperialistic Russian undertaking fails. We lay down the principles in order to do more, to do better, to do differently for Ukraine. It was a a strong time, and this momentum continues. We're working relentlessly to organize, to build on this consensus, and that we acknowledge on this meeting on the 26th. And then yesterday, together with my colleague from the Minister for the Armed Forces, we organized a VTC, a video conference, that gathered some 28 countries. They all commit together with us in this momentum. You attended as well. And I would like to say that we achieved good progress. The purpose of this meeting yesterday was to clearly identify concretely how to help Ukraine further, and to identify some concrete means to that effect in order to move forward on the 5 topics acknowledged on the 26th of February. And only a few hours after that meeting yesterday, here we are in Vilnius to continue these discussions. And we very much want to be as close as possible to the needs expressed by Ukraine. We discussed, amongst others, potential initiatives in order to address foreign interferences, to work on cyber defense, to structure our European support. On all of these topics, your 3 countries, the Baltic countries, know how aggressive Russia is and how strong our coordination must be. There will be further meetings, further contacts on all of these subjects so that we can continue to move forward. Together, we acknowledge the same. We cannot take the risk of a Russian victory in Ukraine. The cost would be huge for all of us. And we all know that Russia would not stop there. And obviously, you are very well placed to understand what Putin's narrative means. Our Baltic partners, our Polish partners, and Moldavian partners often express their fears because war is raging at their borders. And I believe this makes a huge difference in the way you perceive this conflict. These fears, these concerns are not only legitimate, but in addition, we share them. So against these challenges, there's some decisive factors. It is about making Europe fully sovereign and master of its destiny. France will support this project. It is about having a Europe which does not fear defending its interests and its values. And this Europe will be if we strengthen Defense Europe. Europe will master its destiny if we increase our defense industry capabilities and if we share the ongoing risks I mentioned before. To that effect, we need to scale up in terms of defense in order to guarantee our own security and to provide Ukraine, your country, dear Dmytro, the ability to defend itself. We stand very much involved, and we have in mind, we commend the presentation recently made by the European Commission for our defense industry. Clearly, we buy and invest too little in Europe at the moment, so we need to unite our efforts to simplify and facilitate the joint procurement of European equipment and also to use the European instruments to ramp up our European industry capabilities. It is essential for Europe and for our future. To this effect, we need to reflect on the tools that we have and how to finance them. Like President Macron said, in the past we were able to say whatever it takes to address the financial crisis. So today, we must once again say whatever it takes to tackle this crisis. And I heard what you said. about the red lines. This is clearly something to take on board in this conflict. And we're more and more aware that if we set red lines, then the adversary is tempted precisely to go further, and we should certainly not step back. So this is an existential crisis for Europe. And since the 24th of February of 2022, let me remind you that France has provided some 3.8 billion euros of military support to Ukraine. In addition, on the 16th of February, we signed a bilateral security agreement with Ukraine to provide up to an additional 3 billion euros of military support. This bilateral agreement will be subject to a vote by the French Parliament, and I commend the outstanding support provided by our Baltic countries to support Ukraine. And I very much rely on our close cooperation, on our discussions. In the long run, we'll stand together during this entire conflict, which we hope, of course, will be as short as possible. So we will work on this strategic search and make sure that Russia does not prevail. And in this framework, we shall not exclude anything. And I believe that all of my partners here agree with me.
Thank you very much, dear Gabrielos, Stefan, Dimitro, Margus. Thank you very much for the initiative and Gabrielos calling us all here together in Vilnius. What you have in front of you are 5 countries, and we're not alone, that all are convinced of the same thing, that in this war, Ukraine must win and Russia must lose. Since the start of the war, we have seen that Putin has accomplished one thing quite well. He has reinvigorated NATO and reunited the West. Just yesterday, Sweden formally and finally joined as the 32nd NATO member state. So with Finland and Sweden joining since the start of the war, this is what Putin has in fact accomplished. But the war in Ukraine is at a rather critical stage. Right now, Putin and his propaganda is trying to convince the world that he is gaining the upper hand, that he is strong, that everything is in order, his economy is strong, and he will win the war. And we know this is not the case, and we know that it is in our combined abilities to make sure that this does not happen. Ukraine has all of the spirit to fight the war and all of the proven ability to learn new weapons systems, learn new tactics, and to be extremely successful. As a reminder, Putin has already lost about half of the territory that he had initially conquered, and he is losing the naval battle in the Black Sea against a navy which essentially has no ships. And he is still losing his ships because of the ingenuity and the cleverness of the Ukrainian Navy and the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Of course, the Lithuanian Navy and Armed Forces are very clever as well. But what Ukraine now needs are very practical things. They need arms, that is ammunition, they need weapons, and they need training of their soldiers. We, in the Baltics and Latvia, we have given over 1% of GDP. We have given all of our Stinger missiles already to Ukraine. We had helicopters. We have given all of those helicopters. We are continuing to give all kinds of arms and munitions on a regular basis. We will continue. Our civil society has contributed and is continuing to contribute millions and millions of euros. The effort is not stopping, and the effort will continue in our country. in the Baltic countries. And what's important is that this sense of urgency, which we here in the east of Europe have felt for 2 years, is also felt in the rest of Europe. And President Macron's initiative recently in Paris is a fantastic initiative because he is challenging us in Europe to think outside of the box. What else and what more and what can we do faster to provide more efficient aid to Ukraine now, because Ukraine needs the assistance now. So the 5 of us were speaking today, exchanging ideas how we could collectively and individually help in this effort to take more initiative to provide the necessary aid so that Ukraine can win in this war. We need to speed up the ammunition, the supply of ammunition, and I think that the Czech initiative to go outside of the European Union to do this is absolutely right. We need also, we see, to step up European defense industry production. And Russia has been on a war footing for 2 years. Of course, they had the advantage. They knew they were going to war. They knew what they wanted out of this war, which is to conquer Ukraine and to gain territory. We in Europe, we have been a little slow collectively, but we finally are really waking up. The production is ramping up, but it will still take time, which means we have to go outside if we can find ammunition to supply Ukraine today, at the same time building up Europe's defense capabilities as well. It will help Ukraine in the future, it will help Europe in the future, and it sends a very clear signal to Moscow. So the signal that we are sending is a reminder that Europe and NATO is united. NATO is growing and will continue to grow, and that combined, we have the ability, we have the ingenuity, we actually have the industrial capacity to follow through and deliver for Ukraine today. And what we are interested in is finding new ways to do that faster and more efficiently, because Ukraine needs all of our assistance today. Ukraine is fighting the Russian aggressor, and the Russian aggressor is a threat not only to Ukraine, but to the peace, security, and well-being of all Europeans. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we give the floor to the Minister of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba.
Yes. Thank you, dear colleagues, Stefan, Gabrielius, Margus, Krishinius. This is the 3rd meeting following the initial summit in Paris convened by President Macron. Yesterday there was a large ministerial, online ministerial, and today we are meeting in this format, and I think it's quite an unprecedented format, which I welcome. France is back east of you. Welcome. President Macron raised some fundamental questions for the future of Europe. And it's very good that the discussion has begun. There are many elements in these questions. I think 2 key elements, and the strongest one, are about reinvigorating the whole discussion on how we together are going to win in this war, and thinking out of the box. And second, of course, the second strongest element is about localizing certain activities in Ukraine. And when we speak about localization, we mean trainings, we mean maintenance, and we mean production. All of these issues are extremely important. What is clear today is one thing, and we have to admit it openly with bitterness and soberness. And I want all our partners to know that we are extremely grateful for what you have done for Ukraine. But the strategy of dripping aid to Ukraine drop by drop doesn't work anymore. It's over. And if things continue as they currently happen, it's not going to end well for all of us. What is required is an unrestricted and timely supply of all types of weapons and ammunition to ensure that Ukraine beats Russia and the war in Europe does not spill over. We have to accept as a new reality that the era of peace in Europe is over. And this is, in my view, the message, the urging that Paris came up with by convening the summit a week ago. Those who do not believe that the war may take place beyond Ukraine, crossing into what is currently NATO territory, please wake up, read history books, listen to what Putin is saying now, and find 10 differences. You will not. Could the occupation of Baltic countries have been avoided? It could, if strong decisions were made. Why or for how long will we continue to stumble over weak decisions in 2024? Weak decisions, more war. Strong decisions, end of war. It's very simple. And the discussion triggered in Paris is the way towards strong decisions. And today in Vilnius, we had a very honest, candid conversation with colleagues, and we identified some practical joint steps that will provide answers to questions posed in Paris. I'll not go into details. I mean, I keep talking about it on every corner, and colleagues mentioned it: ammunition, air defense. Please recall one thing: when Ukraine has everything it needs, we shoot down Russian planes, we liberate our territories, we sink Russian ships, we prevail. It's not a matter of invincible Russia. It's only a matter of availability of everything that Ukraine needs to Ukrainian soldiers. By the way, I sincerely don't understand why the issue of training missions in Ukraine causes such difficulties and debate. Between 2014 and 2022, there was a whole range of training missions operating in Ukraine very efficiently. And I don't see the reasons why it cannot continue. Bring back your trainers, put an air defense system to defend the training facility, and this is it. Because in a war of this scale, what matters is the logistical lag. If you can train soldiers faster, you get advantage. If you can repair your equipment faster, you get advantage. Cost efficiency, time efficiency, and most importantly, victory efficient way of doing things is to do things not only abroad, but also in Ukraine. We also welcome the fact that the Paris meeting allowed to form the long-range coalition and collect money, raise money for the Czech initiative. It's very important, and we appreciate the effort made by the Czech government and all the countries who made their financial contributions, including those who are present here, but also those who are not present here. We are grateful to you. But please, let's not fall victims of our achievements. 800,000 rounds is a big number, but it will be exhausted very soon. We cannot make a decision, sit down and say, finally we made it. We are at war. It means that we have to make decisions every day. And if other countries have proposals similar to the Czech one, then it means we have to start raising money for it right now, today, and help them deliver. We welcome the adoption of the European Defense Industrial Strategy, 2 years since the war began, and 1 year since Ukraine started yelling and crying on every corner that the production of weapons must be ramped up at the pan-European level and not on a single nation level. We hope that the strategy will be implemented on time and in full scale. I have to admit that what is happening with the European Peace Facility is a shame. And I once again urge all countries, all friends, all partners, on behalf of every Ukrainian soldier who is fighting today, to finally resolve your differences and come to a decision which will allow you to help us to stop the war in Ukraine and avoid a situation where you will have to make decisions at a completely different scale and tragedy to defend your own villages, towns, and territories. Thank you.
Thank you. Now a few questions.
Hello, thank you. My name is Margot Haddad. I'm a journalist for French National TV, and this is a question to all of you. As you've seen, France took the lead in its speech regarding Russia and has taken a step forward comparing to other speeches that had happened in the past. Some allied countries decided to say it in another way, including Germany, for example. Including reports about potential troops on the ground. Do you think this is something fragile for the European alliance in the next coming months regarding the initiatives from the Czech Republic and the European Union?
And the questions for?
For all of them.
Okay.
For all.
Please. Thank you so much. Well, look, this is not the first time when the initiative is supported by a group of countries. Same way, if we were to try now to find an agreement to support Czech initiative as NATO, as EU, most likely we will be discussing, month, 9 months, I don't know, a year, and not finding a solution. What happened was that a group of countries who tend to believe that is the right initiative at the right time, bundle up money, support a Czech initiative, and now we're hoping that the ammunition will start going to Ukraine. And it's not the first time, and it's not the last time. Same goes for the French initiative. There's a French president believes that it has to happen right now, and there are already a group of countries who believe that it's the right initiative at the right time. And we're ready to support. We're ready to follow. The leadership is greatly needed right now, greatly needed in every domain. Czechs are showing in one, French is showing in different one, and Baltics in where we can. But then again, we are in the other side we are following. And same goes for our friends in Berlin. They show initiative in many ways, and we support them when we can. Yes, it has to be stressed, it's better to be in a bigger group. It would be best to be in NATO group. Unfortunately, this war showed that it's very difficult to discuss. It's very political. There are many factors that are in play, and it takes time. But the war and Russians are not waiting. So I appreciate everything that has been done, and Lithuanian flag will be flying together with French one.
Minister of Estonia, please.
Okay. Can you imagine that, yes, what President Macron said was that we need to think out of the box, we need to find a way to support Ukraine immediately, and there was a sentence that boots on the ground, and everybody woke up and started to discuss what does it mean, boots on the ground. But from my perspective, I really like this because it was out of the box, and I think that whatever discussions are, the case is that for everybody is now clear that Ukraine is fighting there in the war. Our troops are not there. It is for us, for everybody, the most efficient, most cheapest, most safest way now to support Ukraine with ammunition, with military aid, with everything that Ukraine is asking. Now we are here together, 5 countries in Lithuania, but yesterday we had a very fruitful discussion, more than 20 countries, all the foreign ministers and defense ministers, because we understand very much that there is no need for the great discussion about boots on the ground, but there is a need for delivery of ammunition. There is a need of delivery, immediate delivery of military support, because there is a real situation where Ukrainians and Ukraine army is fighting against Russia, and as I said before as well, not for their freedom, not only for us as well, but instead of us. So I think that this wake-up call has happened as well, that we discuss in real life that what we can do. Now, the Czech initiative, what is this? They have organized the brilliant ways about offers outside from EU as well, that we can buy ammunition and send there. I can say as well, the Foreign Minister of Estonia, that we have as well the same amount of different offers we can deliver if we would have the money for that. Now, what we have in Europe, one thing is sure, we have lots of money. We just have to deliver. And even more, we have frozen Russian assets in Europe. I really do welcome the EU decisions as a common understanding that we are going to use the profits of the frozen assets. And as well as von der Leyen said in front of European Parliament, that we can use this profit, this money, to support Ukraine military. So the question is where to get money and how to act. But in Estonia as well, we preparing the law draft. How can we use the frozen assets, public and private, during the war? So we are working with that, and we are ready to share our experiences. So the question is delivery of ammunition, money, and action. And this is a way of how, as well, I understood the President Macron initiative to think out of the box instead, actually to talk and talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Latvia.
Yes, thank you for the question. So none of us really knows, but we imagine that in Russia, when someone has an idea, everyone turns and sees what Putin says. And there's probably not much of a discussion, because that's an autocracy where opposition members get killed. Within Europe, we're 27 countries. Within NATO, we are 32. And I think it would be surprising if someone had an idea and there would be no discussion. That would make me a little nervous as a Democrat. So the fact that we're having a discussion is normal and to be expected. But what we have to look out for is that we don't only satisfy ourselves as having a discussion, but that discussion leads to new results. What Macron is reminding everyone and bringing again to the forefront is the sense of urgency. The sense of urgency is very real, and Macron is reminding all of us of this. And as my friend Margus is saying, challenging us all to think outside of the box. So how can we deliver the ammunition faster, more efficiently? How can we train faster, more efficiently, greater numbers? How can we get production closer or in Ukraine? How can we get repair facilities closer or in Ukraine so that all of that happens faster? This is what is needed. And so this is the discussion part, which is visible. But we have to get, of course, to the actions, concrete steps, like the Czech initiative to buy ammunition outside. Good initiative. All support, all give money. Let's move forward and make sure that ammunition is there as soon as possible. My country is helping together with the UK to organize drone acquisition, manufacture, etc. The Estonians are also on the cyber side. We have many, many needs that the Ukrainians have. And the important thing is that we come up with the ideas, someone takes the lead, and then everyone else follows to get the results. And that is the drive, so the takeaway. And the fact that there is some discussion, I would be worried and extremely surprised if there wasn't. And I think the only thing that everyone can agree upon is that, you know, let's go eat dinner. And then everyone says yes. But then when we say, what will we eat? Oh, then there's a discussion.
Thank you. Now, Minister of France.
Merci.
Thank you. Let me remind you of the goals. Do more, better, more efficiently, and make sure that Russia fails without us going to war against Russia. And collectively, we need to be as close as possible to the current needs of Ukraine. Such was the purpose of this meeting, and it's all about doing things differently. And in this context, President Macron said nothing should be excluded. So that did generate a European discussion, but it was not in itself the purpose of our meeting. And my colleagues very much insisted on the fact that we agreed on many, many things. And 90% of the discussions led on the 26th of February, we agreed upon. We agreed upon what to do. We agreed upon the fields in which we were to work together, how to make these initiatives operational, where should be the points of contacts in the various countries. And I can quote you somehow. We are, from the very beginning, we've been doing things differently with Ukraine. And it doesn't mean much. Some provided some military equipment rather quickly. Others concentrated on munitions. Others went as far as sending aircrafts and included the possibility of training pilots. Some sent tanks, Germany, France, countries represented here as well. So you see, there were already a number of coalitions. And we already were helping Ukraine in a different way. And Russia cannot tell us that because we're doing things differently, because we're doing it differently in order to meet Ukraine's needs as best as we can. Russia cannot say that we're divided because we're acting differently. What I heard in Paris was unanimous support to Ukraine, and it's not for Russia to dictate the foreign policy of our countries. It is not for Russia to tell us how we should help Ukraine in the coming months or years. It is not for Russia to explain things to us. It is not for Russia to organize how we deploy our actions or to set red lines. So we decided amongst us how to make these projects operational. And to answer your question regarding European unity is all about supporting Ukraine. Anything that feeds alleged disagreements between us is no good. But you will see, everything you will see in the coming weeks will prove to the contrary. We will support Ukraine, keep doing it. And regarding France, I'm convinced that in order to help French people, we should stand against Russia. Standing against Russia is about being patriotic as a French person, as a European as well. Should Ukraine fail, it would be a tragedy for everyone. So we are on the right side of history for all of these reasons.
To have differences in opinions. It's not okay to be indecisive. Decisions must be taken on time, and this must be strong decisions. I don't want any of us to be writing our memoirs and complaining why certain decisions were taken too late and too little was done and how we ended up here. I want all of us to write memoirs how we won. how we had discussions, how we had differences, how we overcame our fears, but how we won. And to win, we have to make decisions. And I will never get tired of saying that every day of a discussion in one place means death and destruction in Ukraine. Every damn day. So I do respect the tradition of discussion, the need to build consensus, the need to take into account everyone's concerns. But I think we have fought enough, we have achieved enough to make everyone make these decisions faster and abandon fears. I'm personally fed up with the argument with the fear of escalation. For 2 years, Putin was threatening us, you, that whatever you do, he will consider it as an act of escalation and retaliate. You started supplying us with weapons and ammunition. He said, I will retaliate, you are escalating. Nothing happened. You started supplying tanks. He threatened retaliation. Nothing happened. In the meantime, we lost months explaining to distinguished colleagues that there is no need to be afraid of escalation. 2 years after, the same pattern, Putin follows the same pattern and threatens you with retaliation in response to escalation. So that's his problem. Our problem is that we still have people who think of this war in terms of the fear of escalation. What are you afraid of? What kind of escalation are you afraid of? What else has to happen to Ukraine for you to understand that this fear is useless? What do you expect Putin to do? Do you think he will have mercy on you if you say, well, I sent tanks, but I did not send the missiles or troops, so maybe you will be nicer to me than to others? That's not how Putin thinks. That's not how he treats Europe. So, time to wake up and to accept that the reality is different. It's all about endurance now, and it's a race of our political will and defense industries. And we must win in this race if you don't want your boots to defend your own ground. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question, Baltic News Service.
Sveiki, Vilmantas Venskūnas, naujienų agentūra.
Vilmantas Venskūnas. Question to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of France. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs said that we should not refute any forms of support to the Ukraine. And you also repeated a number of times the thinking out of the box, non-standard support. Can you say that all countries agree to the idea of President Macron to not refuting the idea of sending the NATO soldiers to Ukraine? And if that is the fact, in what form could those missions take place? For example, can you only send them for training or something else?
La question était de savoir comment faire plus, comment faire mieux, comment faire différemment dans le cadre justement de l'action que nous avons entreprise.
Like I said, was not the question raised in Paris on the 26th of February. What was on the table is how to scale up, how to do more, how to do differently, because maybe there was a lack of visibility as to the European strategy. How to do more, how to do better. There is a consensus. Like I said, we have 8 projects and we're making them operational with all of our colleagues. And France stands together with the colleagues who are ready to be the point of contacts for one topic or another, or want to lead on one topic or another. We probably will need another few meetings, but things are moving forward properly, and I'm pleased about it. As to how to do things differently, well, for example, demining, training, co-production. It is about looking up at how to do more. And like I said, the framework is rather clear. How to defeat Russia without going to war against Russia, while getting as close as possible to the needs expressed by Ukraine. And Ukraine did not ask us to send troops. Ukraine is asking us to send ammunition at the moment. That being said, do we have to explain all of our red lines? All of the red lines that we would apply to Russia? Of course not. What if the Baltic countries come under attack? What for France? Should I today exclude the possibility of supporting them? Of course not. So, as you can see, the topic is not about an operation in Ukraine, because Ukraine is not asking for it at the moment. But of course, we do not exclude anything for the coming month. But we're working on doing better, doing more, and yes, demining operations, for example, might mean having some personnel not to fight, but as well on cyber matters or on defense production. And I think there are a number of willing countries willing to help Ukraine on that one. So let us not get into the wrong discussions, because sometimes we're building some European complexity, and then this is being abused by Russia. So I can only invite all of the European leaders to stand united and not to answer questions which are not asked.
So thank you, ministers. Thank you, journalists.
Thank you.